article that just came out in Yes magazine, October 5th, 2017. And the Las Vegas shooting, to me, really revealed a lot. But even prior to that, I noticed who was doing all of the shooting, but kept insisting that non-whites are the violent ones. And the thing is, no matter how much they keep pointing at black people, talking about the most violent, and we just keep seeing all the violent acts coming from whites, then it is what it is. But when you see articles like this, and plus I was looking at foreign news, and they're all saying the same thing. The white man is the biggest terrorist on earth. They're not saying it's black men or black women. They're saying it's the white man. And it's only because of what we keep seeing. Every time we see somebody with a gun, shooting a gun at people on TV, it's always a white man doing it. Whether you want to hear this or not, it is the damn truth. Las Vegas Massacre dispels the myth of who's most violent in this country. While young and non-white people are perceived as more dangerous, middle-aged white people have the highest rate of gun ownership and gun deaths. Period. We know hands down who the violent one is in this country and have been since its inception, and it is not the black man and black woman. Even before a 64-year-old real estate investor shot and killed, it should be 59 people, in Las Vegas on Sunday, resulting in the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history. That means in the 21st century. It's by no means the biggest massacre on American soil. We know that through history. And by the way, it was the same people that's doing all the shooting today was doing all the shooting back then. Researchers had been slow to acknowledge a disturbing pattern among a once taboo demographic, middle-aged whites, specifically the involvement in gun violence, suicides, homicides, accidents is growing. The latest CDC statistics show whites 35 and older, America's wealthiest and most politically powerful demographic, make up 37% of the population, but 47% of the nation's gun deaths, and 55% of deaths from illicit drugs. White men 35 and older, just 18% of Americans, now account for 40% of all gun fatalities. It's just as we know it is, period. And 31% of illicit drug deaths. So there is no one more deadly in this country than the white man, period. And if you come with that, black people are 13% of the population, get 50% of crime, I'm just going to erase it. Nobody is trying to hear that. The bottom line is every time we see someone on TV getting shot, it's always a white man behind the gun. That's what everybody is seeing, not only here in America, but all around the globe. Everybody is seeing it. These numbers are worsening by the year, yet This is a population more likely to have resources, is hardly targeted by police. They're not targeted at all. But see, this is why they're so much out of control than everybody else, because they know they're not going to be targeted, and has access to high levels of legal, medical, and psychological care compared to that of younger or non-white Americans. Tabulations of mass shooters vary in design and completeness, but several that are reviewed consistently show an overwhelming majority of those whose races are identified are non-Latino whites, and most are over 35. If you remember the shooter out on the baseball field, that was a 60-year-old white male. Okay, and that was just what, back in July? In particularly jarring statistics from California, the only state to tabulate crime by race, cross with age, non-Latino whites, age 40 and older. A record of 335,000 in 2016 are now being arrested for criminal offenses at a higher rate than are blacks and Latinos under age 35 combined. Let me read that again. No, your ears are hearing the correct thing. It's just what we've been saying all along. When they sit around and insist that somebody else is being the most violent, all they're doing is trying to deflect the attention off of themselves and put it somewhere else. But at the end of the day, it's going to keep pointing right back to them. Let me read that one more time. Tabulations of mass shootings. I'm sorry, I went to the wrong spot. Let me get myself straight here. In particularly jarring statistics from California, the only state to tabulate crime by race cross with age, non-Latino whites, age 40 and older, are now being arrested for criminal offenses at higher rates than are blacks and Latinos under age 30 combined. This is new, as it's the fact that older whites are California's only population by age and race showing increased imprisonment rates. You know why it's increasing? Because this is the way it should have been all along. They have been fighting like hell to keep whites out of prison at all cost. They are now killing so many people in America, they can't avoid it no more. That's what's happening. They can't avoid putting these people in jail for murder. They can't avoid it no more. So those numbers are going to increase, not just in California, but everywhere. They are doing the most shooting in America and always have been. All this deflecting and pointing at black people, those times are coming to an end. People are seeing things for what they are. This is new, as the fact that older whites are California's only population by age and race showing increased imprisonment rates. Nationally, 60,000 more older whites are in prison today than in 2000, while younger ages show decreases, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics. So it must be something that goes on with them psychologically as they age, which is not normal. You would think that as you age, you just become more relaxed and more chilled out as you age. These folks, as they age, are becoming more violent. That's what it's showing. That's what these statistics are showing. These are not statistics one normally associates with a population whose median annual income approaches 90,000. It doesn't really matter if psychologically these people are sociopaths. It doesn't matter what their income is. That man that killed 59 people and injured 527 in under 10 minutes, he was 64 years old and was a millionaire. So it does not matter. Older whites are also the population in which gun ownership is becoming the most concentrated, along with considerable increases in firearm deaths since 2000, as younger people increasingly turn away from guns. The Violence Policy Center reports from surveys. In that respect, Las Vegas shooter Stephen Paddock was a poster figure. Paddock died from a self-inflicted gunshot from one of the 23. He had 23 weapons in that room. Authorities found in his hotel room. Now, you know damn well if that was a black man with 23 firearms, you wouldn't have made it through the hotel door. They let this man check in to a hotel room with 23 firearms. They let him do it. Now, that is white privilege to a T. Okay, Las Vegas shooter Stephen Paddock was the poster figure. Paddock died from a self-inflicted gunshot from one of the 23 guns authorities found in his hotel room. He owned at least 47 firearms by latest count, as well as explosive and thousands of rounds of ammunition. 47 firearms. You know damn well if a black man owned 47 firearms, they come into your house. In fact, they ain't even going to let you have that many. I promise you, I bet you once he got up to about 5 or 6, the feds would have been alerted. Maybe even less than that. Okay, so he had 47 firearms, explosive and ammunition. All right, so now let's look at this chart. Gun deaths drop among urban youth. Who are the urban youth? That mainly pertains to black, urban, and rise among older whites. I don't want no more of you coming here talking about black violence in Chicago and black on black crime, because we know all you're doing is deflecting away from the fact that the violence is coming from you. I noticed it years ago. Black people are not no most violent. If we were the most violent, then we would be in prison for the most violent crimes. Most black people are in jail for non-violent drug crimes. We are not in there for no most violent crime. So that fact debunks what you're saying. I'm just so glad things like this is coming out now. There is no more denying it. You can keep denying it. I mean, it doesn't matter. But these numbers are not lying. And what everybody is witnessing on this earth is not a lie either. Every time we see gun violence, we see a white face behind the gun. It is not everybody's imagination. Youth in racially diverse immigrant influenced large cities like Los Angeles, New York City, Dallas-Fort Worth, San Antonio, and San Diego, in states with very different gun laws, are dying less from gun violence than white, middle-aged Americans. And if you look at this chart, okay, you see youth ages 15 to 24 in the large central metro counties of California, Texas, and New York It has dropped 68% since 1995. Gun violence, listen to me now. Gun violence in large metro area, these are cities where most black people are located, cities. Gun violence has dropped 68% since 1995. So if that is the case, where is this most violent stuff happening? And all those shootings in Chicago are not being done by black people, by the way. All of those shootings are not being done by black folks. Mm-mm. Now, look at the other one. White, nonviolent Hispanic Americans age 35 to 64 up 75% since 1995. And you can see on this chart, it is above the youth. Okay, so most of your gun violence come from white males age 35 to 64, and it has been increasing steadily in America since 1995. Also unique to older white demographic is a surge in extreme retractatory views concentrated in majority white rural and suburban areas where they're suffering the worst casualty rates from guns, drugs, suicide, and other violent means. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. I'm reading that again. Also unique to the older white demographic is a surge in extreme retractatory views, concentrated in majority white rural and suburban areas where they're suffering the worst casualty rates from guns, drugs, suicides, and other violent means. Ladies and gentlemen, what this means is there's a high level of violence in rural and white suburban America. The biggest death in destruction in the white community is happening in rural and suburban white America. All right, let's move on. The divergence of older whites from other American population in a variety of extreme behaviors and attitudes raises the question of whether there is an overreaching connection. Certainly, media as well as political and institutional authorities have not hesitated to stigmatize young immigrants and non-white population as gangsters, thugs, and deadly demographic monsters next door, and just plain bad people based on the actions of a few disproportionate of a disproportionate few. And that's exactly what they always do. If one black man does one thing wrong or one black woman does one thing wrong, then the entire black population ain't no good. We all know this is true. And we all know that you have been playing this up in America all along while all the violence is coming from the white community. Let me read that again, because this is really important. It debunks all this black people are the most violent stuff. And see, that's why they keep coming and fighting so hard in the comment section, because they know they're being debunked now. They know, especially this last shooting has woke up a lot of people across this world, and many were already woken up just from your actions all around the globe, especially in the Middle East, especially there, and your actions in Africa and anywhere where there's dark populations on this earth, we've seen your actions. Who cares about your words? Let's look at your actions. Okay, certainly media, and we know the mainstream media, they're the main culprits in keeping bad publicity on the Black community. You do it, and you do it constantly. But you notice something, at the end of the day, you are not fooling anybody. Everybody is still pointing the finger right back to the white community. Certainly, media as well as political and institutional authorities have not hesitated to stigmatize young immigrants and non white populations as gangsters, thugs, deadly demographics, monsters next door, and just plain bad people based on the actions of a disproportionate few. That should be on billboards all around the country. Because of this double standards, we are not likely to see authorities rushing to demonize the entire older white demographic, although that's where your gun violence in America is coming from. And they're not going to do it because they own the media. So they can put any false narrative out there and keep running with it day in and day out. But I am just so glad people are seeing beyond the bullshit and calling it for what it is. And this should have been done a long time ago. The longer term irony is that, yet again, Republicans in Congress will likely reject calls for modest gun controls, such as background checks for gun purchasers. While these controls have not been shown to reduce murders and mass shootings, they are strongly linked to fewer gun suicides, exactly the tragedy most afflicting older whites, who are Republican largest constituency. Bring it out, bring it out, bring it out. The bottom line is older white people own guns, lots of them, and they are disproportionately use them to kill, mostly themselves in suicide, but also in rarer but extremely deadly mass shootings with dozens or even hundreds of casualties. Aging whites disturb reactions along with continuum of drugs, suicide, guns, the politics of rage, and mass violence have been building for decades and have been just as steadfast ignored by leaders often seeking to exploit them. That's because the politicians, the mainstream media, law enforcement, the courts, and the prisons are all largely ran by whites. So they desperately try to keep this type of publicity on their population as being the killers out of the public light. These are the articles that we should be seeing all the time because this is the truth. This is the truth. This is facts. And I'm not worried about the trolls. Don't worry about the trolls. They're going to come to call us a bunch of niggers. We don't care about that. America's political leaders have too long insisted on blaming social problems on younger, poor, and non white populations. Hallelujah. They offer punitive solutions found in stigmas and exclusions to change those groups' behaviors, then are baffled when confronted with crisis centered in privileged constituencies. Drugs and gun violence are no longer problems of stupid kids downtown. and stupid white kids initiating them, as once thought. Las Vegas is just the latest price for years of self-serving bigotries, a price getting steeper by the day. Alarm at the carnage of mass shootings is justified. Hopelessness is not. But solutions to America's gun carnage are not likely to come from Washington lawmakers unwilling to give up old cliches and entrenched racism. Exactly. No matter what we see with our two eyes, ladies and gentlemen, they're going to still play up the problem in this country is immigrants and blacks. That's what they're going to keep playing up, no matter what we see with our two eyes. While leaders endlessly quarrel over guns amid racialized, age-based fears and stereotypes, it's the young, diverse population in big cities once thought uniquely at risk for shootings that are already disapproving racist, anti-immigrant, anti-youth rhetoric. See, that's right, and it should be debunked. All of it should be debunked. Whenever they come with that everybody else is violent except for them, we should be giving them hell because we know it's not true. Believe what your two eyes are seeing, ladies and gentlemen, not what your ears are hearing from these folks. Believe what your eyes are showing you. When it comes down to their rhetoric and them running their mouth, just tune that out. Tune it out. As I noted in the American Journal of Public Health, in recent decades, gun death rates have been falling fastest in the nation's three most populous states with very different gun laws: New York, California, and Texas. And by the way, I'm going to do a story on this. Whenever you get a chance, look at the top 10 most dangerous cities in America. Chicago is not even in the top 10 list. And maybe I will do a story on that real soon. Chicago is not among the top 10 most dangerous cities in America. But what do they keep bringing to our faces? Chicago, Chicago, black on black crime, black on black crime. But when you go to the crime statistics in the FBI table, it doesn't show black on black crime as being the worst in the country. Again, stop listening to these people. Stop listening to their media. Turn it off. You get better information online than you will ever get from mainstream media. This is why mainstream media is dying. This is why it's dying. You know who's watching mainstream media? Old white people is mainstream media's biggest audience. Turn it off, ladies and gentlemen. After you hear stuff like this, why would you continue to keep mainstream media on and continue to listen to their rhetoric when you know it is just not true? Turn it off. Better news is online. Way better news is online. Let mainstream media die. It deserves to be gone. See, racism is dying fast. It's becoming one of those things that eventually, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be strongly rejected by the entire world. I'm seeing remnants of it now. I'm seeing a lot of people, when they go online, go to a foreign site and watch what white people write in the comment section about terrorism, and then watch what those foreigners write back to them. They always come back and tell them, white man most biggest terrorist on earth. White man big. I see it all the time. I see it all the time. In fact, the next time I see it in the comment section of a video, I'm going to put my video camera on it. I'm going to capture it with my screen and show it to you. A lot of foreigners are now pushing back hard when they try to insinuate everybody else is the terrorist. It's a lot of pushback, ladies and gentlemen. They don't get away with it quite as easy as they used to. And several times faster are the rest of the country. But let me start all over with that sentence because I did kind of babble in between. As noted in the American Journal of Public Health in recent decades, gun death rates have been falling fastest in the nation's three most top populous states with very different gun laws: New York, California, Texas. So gun deaths among the young has been dropping consistently and 7 times faster than the rest of the country. So if you're in any of those states, gun violence is dropping. All 3 states' decline were led by 70 to 90% reductions in gun killings over the last 25 years among, listen to this, urban teenagers and young adults ages 15 to 24 in racially diverse, migrant influenced large cities like Los Angeles, New York, Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, and San Diego. Gun violence is dropping in the hood, ladies and gentlemen. It's dropping wherever immigrants are. It's growing in the white community. Up 17% in the white community, dropping everywhere else. The jig is up. These dramatic, unexpected trends offer a way out of the currently ossified gun debate if anyone's paying attention. Okay? And this is updated October 6, 2017, changes misleading headlines and clarifies author's definition of gun violence to include suicides, homicides, and accidents. Okay. Whether whites, a privileged demographic, authorities have not previously associated with violence. Why? Why? Because they own the media. They are the biggest ones on police forces. So it's easy for them to exclude all of their violence. It's convenient. It's like many of my subscribers put when I did my inventors video. They owned the patents office. So if you own the patents office, it's easy for you to slap your name on inventions that you never did. Or you took credit for what your slave did. You didn't invent nothing. If somebody told you to go out there and make that same thing the slave made, you wouldn't be able to do it. Okay, so whether whites have reached a point where they now commit a disproportion share of America's violence toll depends on definition. If violence strictly means murders, assaults, and victimizing other people, whites have slightly lower than average rates. That's only because you guys get away with everything. And that's why, actually, that's why you're doing all of the shooting, because white men already have a um, conditioned notion that you're going to get away with everything. That's why you're more inclined to do things. Let me get back to this. Though the latest California statistics show violent crime rates have been rising for older whites in particular to levels now exceeding those of Asians and Latinos, but slightly lower for African Americans. Further, mass violence, serial killings, large scale massacres appear to be disproportionately committed by white males, as is violence by proxy. All right. Finally, if violence is seen more broadly in including suicides, drug overdoses, and self inflicting harm caused by personal victimization, then older whites' violent levels are mostly definitely risen sharply to exceed those of the rest of American society. There you go. You know what I walk away from, ladies and gentlemen? I'm going to point this out and say it again and again, and I've done other videos on this. Turn off mainstream media. Turn it off. Turn it off. If you stop listening to them, what are they going to do? Broadcast to thin air? You tuning them out will get them off the air faster. People ain't paying attention to mainstream media no more anyway. See, they had a captive audience prior to the internet really being big. Now that most people in this world are on the internet, then in front of a TV, it's easy to turn away from mainstream media, put them out of business. Nobody's paying attention to them anyway. So they can't continue to push this fake out narrative that everybody on earth is violent except for white people. That can be a thing of the past. All we got to do is turn that switch off and no longer let them have the final say when it comes down to violence in America. And yes, it's that simple. They can't push that rhetoric on you if you stop listening to them. You don't have to listen to these people at all. Again, tune out what they're saying and believe with what your eyes see. Tune out what they're saying. Their words mean nothing. Don't even give their words any importance. Believe what your eyes are seeing. Believe what you have been shown all throughout history. From black towns being burnt down, from the lynchings, from all of the murders, tar and feathering and burning alive black people, and all of the shooting of black families, wiping out a lot of times whole black families when they burnt down those towns. Police violence from slave catching days all the way up to modern times towards black people. Believe what your eyes are seeing. Forget about all that garbage that's coming out of their mouth. Tune it out. Tune it out. As long as there's white privilege in America, you can count on more mass shootings and more heavy gun violence in the white community that's being completely shielded out of the mainstream media. Hell, the mainstream media won't even talk about the drug deaths. If they won't even talk about that, you think they're going to tell the truth about anything else? Hell no. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can donate to my channel, ladies and gentlemen, please do. Peace, family.